Mortals! There is no Halloween Haunt vlog this year. Even as the wretched monster I am, I have to admit, staying home and practicing social distancing is important. And yet you come here demanding a video! Well, if that's what you want, that's what you'll get! Don't say I didn't warn you. In tonight's theme park parlay, we'll turn back the hands of time as we count down the top 10 Canada's Wonderland Halloween Haunt mazes of all time. And now, without any further ado, let the adventures begin! Halloween Haunt at Canada's Wonderland began all the way back in 2005. Back then, it was known as Fearfest, but was renamed to Halloween Haunt in 2007 when Cedar Fair took over the park. The event has seen a lot of changes since then. A total of 30 scare mazes have been terrifying guests over the past 15 years. And as that scary monster told you before the intro, we're going to count down the top 10. Kicking off at our number 10 spot, we have the Asylum. This maze ran from 2007 to 2015 and acted as a sort of sequel to another maze, which we'll discuss later in the list. Located near the front of the park in the warehouse now used by Code Red, the Asylum told the story of Miles Gravestone, who was admitted to the institution after surviving the horrors of Slaughter Mill. Driven mad by his memories, and outraged that no one believed his story, he led his inmates in a violent revolution. Taking out his fury on the doctors and nurses, he left them just as deranged and bloodthirsty as the patients. The whole Asylum theme is a classic when it comes to haunts, and this maze did it just right. The maze led you through the hospital, where you got to see the inmates' rooms and operating tables, where you got to see some freaky looking doctors working on their patients. These were some of my favorite rooms in the maze, because it set up entire scenes where the actors could tell a story by interacting with each other, and of course the scares were pretty great too. Number 9 on our list goes to Redbeard's Rage. This swashbuckling maze tells the story of the legendary pirate Redbeard, who led his crew into a massacre. Although his ship was never found, a single surviving manuscript tells how his mistress was able to cast a spell over the crew that prevented them from fully crossing into death. Guests entering the maze board his ship, which was returned to the dock with a crew full of undead pirates searching for their next victims. Redbeard's Rage ran from 2008 to 2012 and was located in the courtyard of Medieval Fair. The location itself was brilliant because it sort of worked with the Medieval Fair theme, especially when it was paired with Kingdom of Carnage. For some reason, I clearly remember the costumes in this maze being exceptionally well done. The look of the pirates was spot on. As a whole, the Haunted Pirate theme was really fun, and I always had a great time going through this maze. Moving on to number 8, we have Streets of the Undead. This zombie-themed maze was located in the Kingswood Music Theater and ran from 2012 to 2015. In this maze, you explored an apocalyptic city in which a mind-altering virus has taken over the population, causing the city to become overrun with zombies. Overall, I love the urban setting that the maze depicted. The different rooms were made to represent different buildings and streets within the city. I remember going through an old subway station, a hotel, and there was even an entire car that would flash its headlights and blare its horn when you got near it. Streets of the Undead definitely had some of the most elaborate and well thought out sets of any Halloween haunt maze. And the fact that the maze was actually built in the Kingswood Theater just made it a really cool experience, simply for allowing you to see some of the park's backstage areas. Our number 7 spot takes us way down south to the Pelican State, for not one, but 2 Bayou-themed mazes, Blood on the Bayou and Louisiana Scream. The only real difference is that Blood on the Bayou was located in the courtyard area from 2010 to 2012, and Louisiana Scream was located within Wonder Mountain, where it ran from 2013 to 2016. But other than that, they were basically the same maze. They used the same sets and told the same story. A story about the residents of a Louisiana bayou, who were warned not to venture too far from the water's edge, where if you do, you'll find a mysterious, twisted world of curses that will drive you mad with bloodlust. The swampy sets of these mazes created this cool, eerie atmosphere that I absolutely loved. Many parts of the maze had you walking on boardwalks over the swamp, and at one point, you entered a witch doctor's shack full of dark, magical objects. My favorite part of these mazes were the animatronic snakes that would hang from the walls. They would move around and hiss before lunging out at you. I definitely got quite a few good scares from those. Fun fact, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the sets from this maze still live on in Forest of Fear. Remember when I said that the Asylum was the sequel to another Halloween Haunt maze? Well, at number 6, here it is. Slaughter Mill ran from 2007 to 2008. It tells the story of Thomas Graychild, who died working at a paper mill 200 years ago. His wife swore vengeance on all the workers who failed to help him, and placed a curse on half of them, turning them into rabid werewolves who trapped the remaining millers inside the mill. By doing so, the millers could never go home to their wives, and unable to die, they were forced to feel Mrs. Graychild's loneliness. Wow, I guess that explains why that poor man from the asylum went mad. As guests explored the maze, they were subjected to the fury of both the undead millers and the werewolves. Now, I've never actually experienced the maze myself, but I've heard so many good things about it that I knew it deserved a spot on the list. And the originality of this story is awesome. I really wish I could have experienced it myself, and I would just love it if Wonderland could resurrect this maze in the future. Halfway through the list, at number 5, is Miner's Revenge. From 2007 to 2011, this maze took guests into the ruins of an abandoned mine that collapsed and it trapped dozens of miners in its depths. Now, the miners are out to avenge their early deaths. The theme of this maze is so unique, and Wonderland pulled it off really well. They were also really creative with its layout. It was in the area around Whitewater Canyon, the park's rapids ride. Since the flume was emptied for the fall, the maze actually went through the ride's tunnel. They also had some pretty trippy strobe effects in there. Whitewater Canyon sits in the Frontier Canada area of the park, and this maze would fit that theme perfectly. I would love to see it make a comeback one day, maybe with a few other Canadian-inspired haunts. Coming in at number 4 is the longest-running maze in Halloween Haunts history, Cornstalkers. Debuting with Fearfest back in 2005, Cornstalkers is still going strong as of 2019. I love this maze for so many reasons. First of all, it's the only Halloween haunt maze that goes outdoors, which is a fun and unique experience in itself. It's located in a heavily forested area of the park around Whitewater Canyon. It actually used to be connected with Miner's Revenge when that maze was still around. The pathway leading up to the maze takes you away from the hustle and bustle of the park towards the back of the woods. It really makes you feel like you're heading out into the middle of nowhere, giving it this eerie atmosphere that's unmatched by any other maze in the park. Within the maze, you'll find tons of scarecrows, but you don't know which ones are real or scare actors. So you get some great jump scares when they jump out at you, especially if you don't expect it. Cornstalkers is one of the few mazes to feature chainsaws, and recently, it features a giant rat animatronic towards the end that lunges out at you as you walk by. It also has some interesting lore. Back in the day, it was part of a storyline that connected 3 of Halloween Haunt's opening day mazes. Together, Massacre Manor, Bloodshed, and Cornstalkers told the story of the curse of Sleepy Hollow. 200 years ago, despite being warned not to, the Van Tassel boy ventured too far into the woods and stumbled across the grave of the Headless Horseman, a corrupt soldier who was executed for his war crimes. When he came home, the boy unwittingly brought with him the curse of Sleepy Hollow. The enraged Headless Horseman brutally murdered the Van Tassel family and their farm workers in his frantic search for his head. Upon realizing the head was not in the manor, he ransacked the Van Tassel's barn, killing any workers or animals that got in his way. With the Van Tassel family and their farmhands all dead, the fields of the farmstead have become overgrown with 2 centuries of colonial debris and corn. The evil which occurred on the farmstead that night has sunk into the once lifeless bodies of scarecrows, which now consider these fields their home, and will stalk and scare any crows, animals, or humans who dare set foot onto their soil. Today, the story of Cornstalkers is only a shell of its former tale. It's just a haunted corn maze. But it's still cool to think about how a small part of Fearfest's early lore continues to live on. Kicking off the final 3, we have the Halloween Haunt classic, Clowns at Midnight, which ran from 2007 to 2014. This maze actually took over and was located inside Crockenwagon, the park's bumper cars attraction. According to the legend, a big top fire in 1937 doomed the circus performers to a slow and agonizing death. But now, the clowns and circus freaks continue their demented performance every night, looking for fresh blood to avenge their suffering. It wasn't the scariest maze at Haunt. Well, unless you had a fear of clowns, in which case it was the scariest, but it was a lot of fun. The maze used a lot of cool effects too. They had funhouse-style mirrors, some of which slammed down to reveal scare actors behind them. Patterns on the walls and furniture that would match some of the scare actors' costumes, allowing them to blend in and spring upon unsuspecting passerbys. There were even a couple of pooping elephant animatronics. No joke! Something I especially loved about the maze was its integration into the Carnival Scare Zone. Together, they told one cohesive and immersive story, something you really don't see anymore at Halloween Haunt. Inside the maze, you got the story of the clowns that perished in the Big Top Fire, and in the surrounding scare zones, you got to explore the rest of the circus grounds and to meet a whole cast of freak show characters. Although the Carnival Scare Zone is still around today, it's just not the same without Clowns at Midnight. I mean, they still have the clowns roaming around, and last year they started doing the sideshow acts, but come on. I would take a spooky circus scene maze over bumper cars with a bad-mouthed clown any day. At our number 2 spot, we have the Terror of London. This maze first appeared in 2011, the very first year that I attended Halloween Haunt. It then skipped 2012 for some reason, but came back in 2013 and ran until 2015. Terror of London takes you back to 1888, when the Jack the Ripper murders terrorized the city of London. The discovery of the canonical 5 bloody victims has paralyzed the residents of the Whitechapel district with fear. With no hope of catching the culprit, every person you pass is a potential attacker or victim. This maze was incredible. The atmosphere was top-notch and really made you feel like you were in the slums of London in the 1800s. Different rooms in the maze had you stalking along the streets and through some of the residences. The costumes were spot on and really completed the immersion. The scares in this maze were also really well executed. Okay, I clearly remember this one room with these 2 female scare actors that just shrieked when you entered the room. I'm talking about a piercing, blood-curdling scream that still haunts me to this day. The first year of the maze was by far the best, when it was located near Splashworks, right across from Skyrider. Admittedly, the maze didn't quite live up to its hype after 2011, but honestly, that could be said for all the mazes. Don't get me wrong, Halloween Haunt is still a fun event, but it's slowly gotten worse over the years. But still, it made such a strong impression on me that first year that it definitely deserves the title of the second best Halloween Haunt maze of all time. Okay, are you ready to see which maze I decided to crown as the best Halloween Haunt maze of all time? Well, here it is. Spirit Manor. This maze opened in 2015 and is still running as of 2019. Spirit Manor is a cursed mansion where troubled spirits, the victims of brutal murders, torment innocent souls, and demons lurk in the dark, searching for their next victim. I mean, the theme and story are nothing groundbreaking, but the thing that really makes Spirit Manor deserving of this top spot is its set design. It is the most detailed and elaborate maze I have ever seen at Halloween Haunt. I'd say it's on par with the design of some of the mazes you'd see at Universal's Halloween Horror Nights. It really does make you feel like you're exploring an old colonial manor. You enter into this foyer with a grand staircase, where a ghost butler welcomes you in. Throughout the maze, you'll find yourself in the portrait gallery, where paintings slam down to reveal hidden scare actors. The library, where lonely ghosts roam the stacks, and books float overhead, straight out of a scene from Harry Potter. You go through bedrooms, the gardens, and even an attic with creaky floors that make you feel like if you make one wrong step, you'll plummet into the rooms below. The whole thing gives off a similar vibe to Haunted Mansion at Disney, except these haunts aren't overly happy. Trust me, I have some personal experience where these spooks have given me quite a fright. But yeah, Spirit Manor checks off all the boxes you would want in a haunt. Detailed sets, great special effects, a spooky and immersive atmosphere, and top-notch scares. Honestly, this should be the standard that all future haunt mazes should attempt to mimic. And that, you half-witted mortals, is our list. Do you dare challenge it? Well, if you think you're so brave, comment down below. If you're bloodthirsty for more, check out my Halloween Haunt playlist, where you'll find vlogs and discussions from Halloween Haunt and other haunt attractions from around the world. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, and all that wretched YouTube stuff. And if you would like to become one of my followers, there are no silly rituals or sacrifices. All you have to do is head to Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter and look up at ADV Parker.
have a horrible Halloween. And remember, these spook ventures are calling!